Hi, I'm Ada Babineau, and I started just a company called DocUup because I'm someone who believes that your voice, everyone's voice, is important. Everyone's story has validity. So I wanted to just kind of start with an interview with someone who's been very influential and impactful in my life since the age of 2. You can believe it or not, she used to go get bottles and diapers for my mommy when I was born, and always took care of me, always looked out for me, always had my back. I want to introduce my sister Karen and just kind of talk about who she is, what she's done in life, and her new venture, not new, but it's a venture that she started that is I support to have the leadership mind and the incentive and entrepreneurial spirit to start something that she believes in and that she's passionate about. So we're going to talk about her company, Abode Realty, as well, and just talk sister talk. So without further ado, I want to introduce my sister, Karen Ruth Babineau. We always called her Rudy, but I'm going to add her to the stream. Hey, Karen
Hey,
Babino.
hey, what's up?
Yeah. Well,
Everybody doesn't know me by Rudy. Only family
okay, so
knows
we'll,
me
we'll
as
live with
Rudy.
that.
And some people never knew my name was Karen.
You all didn't hear that. Okay. So I want to just kind of just start out by saying, what just tell a little bit about who is Karen Babanel for those who don't know you. For those who do know you, who do they see you as? Who are you? Just kind of a little bit about who you are and some of the things you believe in. And let's just start. Let's just go from there.
Very heavy question.
It is. It can
But
be.
who am I? I mean, I'm a very easygoing person. I'm number four in the family, so I always had to get along with other people. So that's a trait that I have carried through my professional life. I get along with people. Um, some people would say I'm bossy, but I think as a little girl growing up, that's how you show leadership. So I don't think I'm bossy, but and I'm also I care about people. So I always had to be in a creative slash industry that where people mattered. So I think that's pretty much who I am.
Mhm,
Easy to get along with.
mhm.
I
What,
have
what,
my strong opinions,
yeah.
and yeah, I do have strong opinions, and integrity matters. So
You always been someone who
principle and
really,
integrity matter. I would fight for principle about things. I will
yeah,
fight for principle.
I guess that's where I get it from too. Injustice really infuriates me, and I fight for injustice. But you've always had a knack or an interest for history too. Where did that
Mhm.
come from? And you used to like argue with Coach Dickey in high school, all right, or your history teacher about the black or the African side. Where's the African section? So where did that need or that desire to affirm your history, your Africanness come from?
I don't know actually because I remember that argument with Coach Dickey. It wasn't an argument, but we were in class and he was talking about the Carthaginians and how they were, about their society, and I'm like, their Carthage is in Africa, so why aren't you sharing that fact? Because people are not thinking that way, in I don't know ninth grade. I don't know where that came from. I don't know because I learned more in that history class, not from the book information, but just from knowing the fact that those people were African and that society and how it related to Egypt and how there's not one way to look at African people. Um, and we're not the same. It's not a country, people. It's not. So I'm not really sure where that came from. But I do remember that conversation in class with him. You know,
Mhm.
he may not remember.
No, no. One
But
of the
that
things. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean that was one of the things, and we had exposure to a gentleman that daddy had working for him he was Nigerian. So I had
Okay.
an exposure at an early age to African people. Yeah. Daddy
Oh,
hired a guy to work in the cleaning business.
uh-huh.
He was Nigerian, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember him. So that was my, like, other than watching Tarzan movies and all the negative things you see, I never really believed the Tarzan movies because, you know,
You
they
always
were
question like they're in their country. Why is this?
right.
Yeah.
Well, that was one thought. But
Mhm.
I used to like Johnny Quest. I don't know if people remember that show.
I remember that
Johnny
cartoon.
Quest. They used
Mhm.
to kind of delve on international themes. And then really the bulk of it came from Daddy sharing his experiences when he traveled, his travels in the military and
Mhm.
living in Korea. That really opened my eyes about the world.
Mhm.
Even
That's
even though
how old are you?
that
'Cause
was
I don't remember.
wartime. Hmm?
How old are you? Because I don't remember those stories. How old were
Yeah.
you when Daddy used to talk about that stuff? Romeo Babineaux was our dad. Wonderful man. Loved him.
Maybe 6.
Huh.
I was about 6. He used to send us gifts from overseas. We had a lot of made in Japan toys, made in Taiwan toys.
Mhm.
And he sent us some traditional Korean costumes, the
Mhm.
traditional dress, and we used to play house and dress up. I remember that. Yeah.
Mhm. Huh. Well, I'm
Hmm.
glad you have a memory, good memory, because I'm like,
Yeah. If
duh.
I was 6, you were 4. You probably don't remember that.
Yeah, yeah. And Karen
Mhm.
was always like the leader. When I used to get my butt beat, she was always the responsible one. She didn't get whoopings like I did. I used to get beatings like every freaking day. And she was always the responsible one, the one that was logical, even as a freaking kid. So I didn't.
Well, it wasn't. See, you don't understand being in the middle. I'm not the middle child, but I was in the middle of two people that
Yeah,
had totally different personalities.
yes, that's for sure.
You as the baby, and then Lisa.
Hmm.
So I've already seen Claire get in trouble. So the shit Lisa was doing is like, okay, I'm not going to do that either. So that's why I became, I guess that's kind of how I evolved because I could see two sides and you were always getting a whooping. So why am I going to get a whooping? Because you know,
Logical. Yeah.
yeah. So
Well, I was always the real
act
soldier.
accordingly. You just act accordingly. What was your
So I
question?
don't know. There's always seems to be a leadership quality. I've been very blessed to have a sister who's not, because usually big sisters would be like, I don't hang with me. And you were always somebody that was welcoming. Whenever you had friends, I was part of the friends. I was part of the good things that you ventured into, cheerleading, and you seem to always run for leadership roles in junior high and high school, and it worked out very well. That's my daughter calling me. I'm going to cancel her. Sorry about that. That's my daily call from Savannah and the kids. So anyway, it was always what drove you to even put yourself forward to want to be in leadership positions? Can you just talk about that? Even just growing up to going off to college to now being an entrepreneur.
Well, my one of the things I remember in 4th grade in Mrs. Sewell's class, um, I think it was her birthday or something, or oh, I know what it was. It was at the end of the year, at the end of the school year. So I organized the class for everybody to give, I don't know, $1. I don't know if it was $1 or less, but all the kids got $1 for a gift for her. And Mama took me to the store and I bought her a gift. So really, it was easy for me to like motivate people to do things. And I think that's kind of where it started in 4th grade, organizing my class for different things. And then it just, moved on to growing up. I don't know. So I think kids are born with innate personalities already. And as they grow, their experiences kind of shape that. So a lot of people who have bossy little girls, they're probably leaders. You just got to direct them into something, you know.
Hmm. I think a lot of that is,
Raina.
yeah, I think a lot of that is
Hmm.
true. And if you don't capture that and
Hmm.
lead them accordingly, then they can go down the wrong avenue as being troublemakers or being whatever. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, mama always made us feel guilty about stuff. She always said, I never had a sister, so you better go take care of your sister. Stop, don't fight. You know, she
yeah,
never wanted us to fight.
or
None of
argue.
us. Don't
Mhm,
argue, make up with your sister, that
mhm,
kind of thing. So that guilt pushed
mhm,
you to kind of be not everybody's friend, but at that young age, you're friends with everybody because you don't want to, you
mhm,
know, you don't want to make waves in a negative way. You want
mhm,
to make waves in a positive way. You you want to, be the leader. I never wanted to necessarily be in charge. I don't have to be in charge because you can be um, a kingmaker. I was always a kingmaker.
mhm,
I don't have to be the king or the queen.
mhm. Well, I think that's true to a large degree. And it's also lead by example. I think you've been
Hmm.
a great example to lead by in terms of positive directions. Like my mom always kept us busy in junior high. We always were busy, so we didn't have a lot of idle time
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
go off into bullshit stuff. It was always like you had to think, you had to be responsible, you had to be in the sense of being independent and responsible because
Yeah,
they
but
were.
daddy was like that too. I mean,
Mhm.
if he gives you a task, he shows you how to do it. You got to do it. And I mean, there was no excuses for stuff.
Right. And do it to the best of your ability.
Yeah, you
You
just
have to
do it.
do it. You gotta do it to the best of your ability.
Hmm.
Yeah. So let's talk about what so after high school, we went to high school, the east side of San Antonio, Sam Houston High School, which was a predominantly black high school.
But it was
Set up
actually
very
also,
apartheid. White on one side, black
yeah, but
people on
it
one
was,
side. Huh?
I said Sam Houston was also, the kids had a lot of shared commonalities among the families. There were a lot of ex-military families um,
Mhm.
that settled in, the fathers retired in San Antonio. So
Mhm.
it was similar incomes,
Mhm.
so there were a lot of similarities no matter what race you were, that people went to Sam Houston.
Mhm.
It was a lot of good relations between the kids
It
there.
was.
It
It was.
wasn't like, they had some bad kids, but yeah, there weren't, it was a lot of similarities.
Yeah, for the most part, it was a good experience, I think. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't think I was prepared for college
No, not at
education,
all.
but because of the type of person I was, I didn't want to fail. So you just step up and do your thing. Because to me, college is a buffer zone between real life and you leaving your parents' home. So it's a very important period of your life to grow.
Yeah,
So
but you had a lot of teachers that really cared about you. That was the
yeah,
thing that I think educators don't see their influence and their impact on the students that they teach.
hmm,
I know administrators don't see that, because
maybe,
there's some really good teachers who don't get their accolades.
yeah. So what happened after high school? Like what prompted you to go to pick the school you picked, and what I mean, like I didn't even hear about it, but you were, headstrong about not being the minimal, because our parents didn't. Every generation should do better than the last generation, and our parents, because they were hardworking people, they came from sharecroppers and maids. They didn't see their daughters progressing on to a higher education. So, what prompted you to push for the education you got? And tell us where you went and how and why you decided to go there. I think that's important.
Well, I knew I wanted to go to an HBCU because my cousin, Sonny, he kind of put that idea forth. And Sonny was working at Dillard, so he wanted me to come to Dillard. And that was an exciting conversation for Mama Frank because she was like, "Oh, she could stay here and go to school." And in my mind, I'm like, "I'm not staying in Mama Frank's house." So that prompted me to look for other schools. So I looked at Tuskegee. Dillard and Howard. When when you send off for back then, you send off for their brochures or whatever. And when I pamphlet, it was like a book with photographs. And I just was like, oh, yeah, I'm going there. And I just made up my mind, I'm going. I don't care what daddy says, even though he tried to talk me into staying in San Antonio to go to school. I didn't want to go to Trinity. I had done an internship, a summer internship at Trinity. They one of the classes that we had to take was philosophy, and I was like, "What is this?" I just couldn't. No, I said no. I can't go here. And then I didn't want to go to UT. I hated UT Austin, and I didn't want to go all the way out to UT San Antonio. So I just knew that I had to leave. That was just okay. I got to go. And once I got, like I said, the Howard brochure and just knowing all the people who were alumni of Howard University, that sold it.
Like, so, what people did you know about that went to Howard, and how did you know? How did you know about?
I knew that Frederick Douglass taught there, and I knew that my hero Vernon Jordan went there, and some people in San Antonio, Yolanda, I forgot their last name, the family, she went to Howard. So Claire knew the family because they went to St. George together. So I called her and I talked to her and she just confirmed it. She's like, oh yeah, girl, you got to go. So I was like, okay, okay, I'll go. So the year that I graduated, Claire was going to medical school. And so mom and daddy couldn't afford to like send both of us away. So I was like, okay, I got a job. I went to SAC and saved my money. I bought a trunk and I saved my money, and bought things for DC. I bought a coat, like a big down coat. So every paycheck I would buy something, and I was taking classes at SAC, and I really enjoyed taking classes at SAC. And my one memory that I have of SAC, I had an English class, a writing class, and the topic I chose was Rastafarianism, learning about that because I was really in love with Peter Tosh and Bob Marley. And so I wrote about it. And the teacher basically, in a nutshell, told me, this is irrelevant. And why are you writing about this? So that angered me. And I was like, I got to get out of here. I knew there was somebody that would affirm, my thoughts and my need to grow in a different direction than was in San Antonio. So that's why I left. I left that summer. The following summer, I went to SAC 1 year, left that summer, and stayed in DC for 17 years, and before I moved to Atlanta.
Wow.
Yeah. I was Job and Tyrone were friends, and I did.
Our cousin and her ex-boyfriend. You got to say who people are. They don't know. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I stayed with Tyrone's mother, and then Claire was at a conference that summer when we had to go, when all the freshmen had to report, because I was a transfer student and I didn't have housing. So, Claire came up after her conference. She and I would meet, and Daryl, Yolanda's brother, the lady in San Antonio that told me about Howard, he would take us around. We'd have a list of apartments to go see, and he'd take us around.
So you went out with not knowing anybody, really knowing anybody.
I didn't have housing, but I was going to work it out. I was going to work it out, and then things just fell into place. Howard, I guess the university leased several apartments in the Woodner for students, and so they had like an open call. You had to go to housing and be there at a certain time. So Claire and I went there, and
you got your first A building experience, I'm sure.
No, that wasn't my first A building. That was my first housing experience. So when I got in line, me and Claire were there, and it was just a bunch of people that didn't get housing that were in line. So the lady behind me, the girl behind me was Jackie. She and I looked at each other and go, "You want to be roommates?" And she was like, "Okay." She was from California. And then behind her was Paige, Yvonne, Lisa Laster. I mean, all of us were like in line together.
Terry.
So that's Terry. Mhm. And I think
Uh,
Paige and them, um, they went to the dorm. They didn't, I don't know if they picked their roommates, but they
oh,
were assigned because they lived in a, um, so I don't know how they actually, her and Terry got to be roommates, but Yvonne and Lisa were roommates. So it was me and Jackie, Yvonne and Lisa, Paige and Terry, and we all lived in the same building, different floors in the Woodner. And that was like extreme fun because everybody
the beginning of chaos.
had chaos. And all the old people would complain to security. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, we were arguing about, Michael Jackson not being the greatest entertainer, whatever the topic was. The security would knock on our door and we pretend like we were quiet, and then they'd go away. But that was really a lot of fun living there and meeting them and knowing them. Lisa would walk with me in the snow to go get our Entenmann's, dessert. On Sunday, we walked to the grocery store, that kind of thing. So yeah, I've known them for what, 40 years?
Mm.
Maybe about 40 years.
Yeah.
Still talk occasionally.
So what was your major? Why did you choose that major? And what did Howard teach you? Lifelong lessons that Howard, being a student at Howard University, taught you. A lot of people go to Howard and they don't partake in all the treasures in the midst of the environment, the chapel, the lectures, the cultural entertainment. I mean, what did you pull from there? And plus, yeah, I'm sorry, your major, all that, and then what did you pull from there, learn from there?
Well, when I left San Antonio, I wanted to be in fashion merchandising, and that wasn't a major. So marketing was the closest thing. So I became a marketing major in the business school, which was really fun. I didn't really fit in the business school, but I found some good people, good friends in the business school. Artie,
Why didn't you fit in? Let me interrupt. I'm sorry. Why didn't you fit in business school? Just tell me.
Because I was more of an arts person. I cared more about the arts. I was always with Yvonne in the fine arts building or on the yard with you all the communications people. Everybody in the business school was really focused on a corporate career. And I knew going in, I didn't really want a corporate career, even though my first interview, I did get an interview with Mellon Bank, and they were relocating people to Pittsburgh. And I did, I went on the trip and all that. And I was like, oh God, I can't live here. It was just dark. So, I knew that I didn't want a corporate career. I knew that going in. And all my friends, that's pretty much the way they went into corporate America. But yeah, Howard, it opened my eyes about a lot of things because I wasn't the person who was in the band and all that kind of stuff. I was more focused on like the treasures that the university has that a lot of students really don't learn about or know about, the history of Founders Library. I used to go to the Moreland Spin Garn just to be in that environment, to be present in those big tables. I loved studying at those big tables with those hard wooden chairs. I loved it. And being in Moreland Spin Garn, studying accounting and really pulling out my eyebrows. And then I could just walk outside and read or look at the featured, writer that they were focusing on some aspect of Howard's history. So that really motivated me. More so than going to parties or all the stuff. Even though we went to parties. Now we had parties, we went to parties, but just being in that environment, the historical part was really motivating for me.
Mhm.
And I loved it.
Yeah, it is a magical place, and I think that we both really grew up there. I went to California right after high school to art school, and then lasted 1 year because I did not want to be on diets and auditions the rest of my life. So I went to visit Karen at Howard, and I was just like blown the freak away. I mean, Black people were omnipresent; they were everywhere, and it was just a wonderful. I was like, oh, I gotta come, I gotta come. So she saved me a room in a house that she had, and you can tell more about that story. And I ended up going to Howard in '83. She arrived in '82, right? Or was it '81 when you went?
81.
She arrived in '81, and I came
Mhm.
in '83 and joined her her band of people.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
that
just tell
was
us about
one of
your
the
experience
things.
in terms of growing up.
Uh-huh.
No, just your experience about just growing up in Howard. I mean, you got a house, you got roommates that were like a
Yeah, but the thing
family. I mean,
is, when we lived in the Woodner, we moved in, and Claire left that weekend, and I was like so lonely. So it was lonely like the first couple of weeks, until you find your friends' schedules and you all can hang out together.
mhm,
But I met James and Al. I met James because he was one of my roommates. I met him because he lived in the Woodner too. And him and Al were going to go, find a house near campus. So they came up to me, and we were friends, but he asked me, and I'm like, okay, just
mhm,
whatever. It'd be cheaper on mom and daddy than paying this high um, housing fee. And
mhm,
we're sharing an efficiency basically.
mhm,
So they found a house and they wanted me to see it. And so all of three of us went to see the house, and it was a row house that was just redone, freshly redone. The landlord lived in the basement, and he wanted our parents to be, responsible for the rent.
mhm,
And all of our parents, said okay. But the funny thing about it was, I told mom and daddy I'd be living with two guys, and they really didn't express any concern, right? Because they knew one was James and the other one was his roommate. But their parents were like, well, who's this Karen girl? And why you got to live with a woman? And so it was so funny, the opposite. Their parents were more concerned about me than my parents were concerned about them.
mhm.
But it worked out. I mean, we moved in. I had to freaking do rock, paper, scissors to get my room. I'm the girl. I need the biggest room. James wanted the room. I said, no, I want that room. But
Mhm,
I wanted the room because it had a lot of light. And
mhm.
I didn't have a lot of stuff, but I knew I just needed a space for
Yeah.
a desk and all that. So we did rock, paper,
Mhm.
scissors, and I won. And so I got the big room. Al, of course, doesn't care. He goes, I don't care. I'll take any room. So he got the middle, the second largest room,
Far
and then
end.
James took the room in the middle. I mean, we worked together, we shopped together. I cooked on weekends. Everybody fend for themselves during the week. Al helped me with my math, and yeah, we had a family. I mean, we
I
were
was
like
wondering
a
why
family.
you were the chosen one out of all. Why did they choose you to be the roommate? You're the practical, not silly one of women out of all the girls that were around you, or
Yeah, and it was so funny. The day we moved in, all my friends came over. Lisa Laster, Paige, Terry, Yvonne, all of them, and they would always spend the night. We sleep on the floor, so they were always over there. Um, but I don't know why they chose me. You'd have to ask them.
a good question.
I knew James. I knew James. I kind of knew Al, but I didn't really know him until we started living together.
Yeah, because Al was Detroit, James was San
Mhm.
Antonio. Yeah.
And so you hung around with people, like the Texas club. I knew people in the Texas club, so I would hang around with people from Texas, and yeah, and then the
Hmm.
Detroit club and all the Detroit people. So Michigan club, Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan and
Yeah, so
Texas.
that's
Yeah.
hmm
So
so
what are
that's
some
that's how I ended up.
organizations? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's how I ended up with them, being
Okay.
affiliated with James now.
What are some organizations that you were involved in on campus? And of course, I want to move you in from what happened after when you graduated. What happened after you graduated? Where you
Um,
decided to venture to? What
I mean,
organizations?
you choose organizations based on your interests, but you also choose them based on, kind of developing your resume. So I was part of No Bucks. James and I were both part of No Bucks
Which was
starting
what?
out.
What was No Bucks?
I don't remember the acronym, but it was at that time, it was a pretty powerful student organization on campus.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got involved in the business school, and I ran for, I think it was my junior year, I ran for student trustee,
I remember that.
yeah, for the business school.
And you should have won.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. People are cutthroat. I was like, it's not that serious, guys, but I lost.
Mhm.
Um, and then the person who actually won years later, I think he was indicted for some, you know, issues, some criminal activity. That was interesting to learn. What other? I can't remember what other
Okay,
group.
let me just involve you in
I joined Ubiquity. That was like the major commitment.
yeah, yeah.
Joining Ubiquity, and all of us joined. A lot of everybody, we kind of went together. I think Camille may have been initiated that
I don't know how we
interest in
met Camille. I
Ubiquity.
don't know how we met Camille, but yeah, she was Ubiquity was it's a sisterhood brotherhood organization on campus. It's
Mhm.
co-ed, and they deal very Afrocentric principles on family, on working together as a unit, and it's very progressive. They deal with the Nguju Saba, 7 principles of Blackness. So it was very good organization. It taught us a lot.
Mhm.
I joined that as
That
well.
that circle of friends were really. I liked the people that were part of it, even
There's
though
17 of us.
yeah, but my best friends were all looking to go into a sorority. Paige and Yvonne were legacy AKA, they wanted to be AKAs. I had no interest. So the people that were in Ubiquity, I liked them as people already before I knew they were in Ubiquity. So that was more interesting to me, becoming part of an organization where you actually like the people.
Yeah,
You
and
don't have to be forced to like them.
actually, this was a time mid 80s. So this was a time when we were talking about apartheid was heavy. Stevie Wonder was trying to get MLK's holidays. We were involved in all of that, all the marches and the
Yeah,
protests, and on campus, the campus takeover where the students were fighting for
that's the
their
thing.
rights.
Anybody who is anybody, if they're visiting DC, they will come up on the yard, and that's how you met so many people. Um, like you said, that was during the anti-apartheid struggle, and I had basically been to lectures either in the architecture auditorium or in the student center, where you had people coming in telling us about their life in apartheid, and
Mhm.
I had never experienced that before, and I was volunteering with student government and Serge Ellie. I've
I
never
remember.
contacted him after we left school, but he was over the international students at Howard. He was Haitian, and I would volunteer in volunteer with him, and he would show me things, and just his whole mentality.
Knowledge.
He was very Afrocentric. He was very revolutionary, and he's the one who encouraged me to go to graduate school because I never really thought about it. But he's like, when, he didn't say if, he said, when you go to graduate school, da 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 da, you need to do this, or da 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 da, you need to check out this, Karen. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I could go to, I guess I could do that. I was interested. So he really helped me with that. And I think he gave me a recommendation for my application and all of that. And his goal was to go to a university in New York, upstate New York. It began with an R. I can't remember the name of it, but thank you, Serge. I don't know what happened to him after he left Howard.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was real influential in getting me focused on the African diaspora.
Mhm. Yeah, because after you left Howard, you went to where? Where'd you go after Howard in terms of grad degree, and how did you make that happen? Because I know you were working at that campus, on that campus.
Yeah, I was at I went Serge helped me get into the program at American University because my I think my senior year I was doing an internship at Channel 5,
Yeah.
WTTG in DC. And so they knew I was about to graduate, and the I was working in the traffic department. The lady asked me, "Did I want to stay on and be full time?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I just did. And I liked TV. It was fun. It was interesting. I was learning a lot in that industry because I always like doing stuff in arts and communications. And
Mhm.
um, I said after a year, I just set a goal. Okay, after a year of working, I'm going to go back to school. So I did, and I applied at American, and they had a program where you could work and go to school. So my classes were in the evening. It was good because I was already up um, Wisconsin Avenue, and all I had to do was take the bus, a few stops to go to American. So I
Mhm.
started my program. It was totally not what I thought it would be. International relations is a lot of reading of boring things, um,
Mhm.
European history. You're just so European focused. And so um, I met two people that were, I'm still in touch with one, but I met this African guy. He was Nigerian, very intelligent, just crazy. But he would help me challenge ideas. That's what people that are not from the United States helped me with thinking a different way. I was always curious, but I had one I learned one way to think. And so Sadiq, his name was Sadiq. You remember Sadiq, Ada?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Sadiq,
yeah. I remember Sadiq. Yeah, yeah, I
remember
remember.
him? Yeah.
Mhm.
So he was in the program that I was in, and he would help me to a point. But people in graduate school, people didn't want to share. They didn't want to study together. You know, you were just like out there on your own. So I used to take the bus from V Street to Georgetown, and then take another bus to AU. And I used to see this little black girl on the bus. I mean, little. She was so short, female. And so one day I just walked to the back of the bus and started talking to her. Hey, I see you on the bus and da da da. So every day we'd get on the bus. I would be on and she would get on, and then we'd sit together. And that's how we became friends. And she was going through the same thing, not understand why people don't work together. There's
It
no
was at a white university, though. They were working together amongst themselves. They were not with the black folk, right?
right. Well, whatever it was, the foreign students, they would stay together. She was Bahamian, so there wasn't any other Bahamians there. And so we started working together. We started studying together. There was another guy from Pakistan. He befriended us, and we would all study together for our comps to get the hell out of that program. And we all made it out. And I was very shocked that I made it out. That was at the beginning of the Iraq conflict with Bush one, President Bush one. And so that was one of our exam questions about the war and the different concepts and all that. So we all took our exam in the summer, and we all passed, thank God. And I got out, and I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I wanted to be a diplomat, and I wanted to go into the State Department. And so I took the exam. Gaynell and I both studied because they actually were planning on working for their governments. So I wanted to, be in the foreign service. I took the exam a couple of times and I didn't pass. So I just moved on, and I was working um, at the university, at American University, in the athletic department, and I liked it. I liked the people. It was crazy. And I saw a young girl putting up flyers about working in Japan. And so I just stopped and chatted with her. She was Black. I think she was mixed race. Her mom was Japanese, her dad was Black. So we talked, and, you know, um, she goes, well, why don't you come to come to my seminar? I said, okay. Because in the athletic department, you could just walk out and do whatever. They weren't keeping like tabs on us as long as the work got done. So I went to her lecture and I signed up to go teach in Japan. And that was something I like teaching. And the way she explained it is something I felt I could do. So I signed up, sent my application in and everything. I didn't tell anybody at AU. And then when I heard back that I got accepted, it was like, oh, God, that was quick. What am I going to do? So I just started basically preparing, but I didn't think that I was going to get accepted. And because they wanted a photo. And this is the thing, like I said, thinking one way, thinking like an American. They wanted a photo of you. And we were all like, why they got to have a photo of you? If your resume is good and da da da, why they need a photo, So, we had to send everything in. It was me and a couple of other people, two other people, I think, from AU that applied. And when I got my acceptance, they set up an interview, and I was like, oh God, I didn't tell the people in the athletic department that I might be leaving. So how am I going to be late for work, like 2 hours late? So I called just to tell them I might be late. I didn't tell them what time I would come in. So I got on the bus, went to the Japanese embassy, and there were a bunch of people waiting on an interview. And so the 8 o'clock person, I was there before 8. The 8 o'clock person didn't show up. So somebody comes out and goes, somebody can go at 8 o'clock because the person didn't show up. And it was like maybe about 5 or 6 people waiting. And we all looked at each other and they didn't say anything. So I said, I'll go. And I went into the interview. It was a panel interview with a Black man, a Japanese woman, and some people from the embassy.
Huh.
And that was it. I said what I had to say. I was confident. I related it back to Daddy's experiences. I think he was in Japan for a while. And then at the time, Japan had a very prominent diplomat female diplomat that was in charge of something at the UN. And I mentioned that, how she was a role model. And I said, thank you to everybody. And I left. I got to work on time. And the following week or two, I got my acceptance letter. And from like April to July, it was all about going to Japan.
Wow.
I stayed there 3 years and met a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And learned a lot about myself and dealing with situations, because the first school that I taught at, and their education system is nothing like people here would think. The first school I taught at, a young man picked up a chair and tried to hit me with it. And so, of course, I'm an American. I fought back. I went after him.
Oh, wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, that was a big incident. I mean, they called me into the Board of Education and they were explaining.
Did he do that because you were a Black woman? That you were Black, or
no, he was just a troubled child. He was just he was a high school, like 8th grade. It was like 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't know that. I'm trying to teach a lesson and I'm talking like I approached him, how you interact with people when you're teaching. And apparently he was mumbling something under his breath, and he picked up the chair, and I'm like, oh no, we're just gonna battle, because you're not gonna hit me with that chair. So wow. It was so funny to me, and it just was like a major international incident.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had to go back to the Board of education. They sent me home that day. They talked to him. I think he got sent home. But what happened? The our We had like a person that was in charge of all the foreign teachers, and she explained that little boy's situation. Right? He's crazy. He's bad. He's a bad kid. Da da da. He's troubled. So I was like, okay, but they couldn't understand why I would fight back because the Japanese teacher is not going to fight back. They're going to
Oh,
let that boy hit them with the chair, and maybe try to
right,
have.
right.
Mhm. It's very passive.
Wow.
And so I had to explain my side, no, you don't let people do that, and so I think I was off, for a couple of days, and then I went back to the school. I had to apologize to the school, the teachers, and apologize to the boy, and he apologized to me, and I ain't never had no problems from that boy.
Wow.
Hmm. That was like my first week of teaching.
You ain't never told us that. That's deep.
Well, I mean, we're talking about it now, but what's funny is I talked to Paige yesterday for my birthday, and
Uh-huh.
she said she had like 10 letters that I wrote her from Japan.
Uh-huh.
And she said, I don't even know why I kept them. She said she had one of them was like 12 or 15 pages because I would sit there
You
and
had
just
time on your
write
hands.
letters to everybody. Yeah. The
Mhm.
first year, you don't know what you're doing there. You're like, why did I do this? But then you get used to it. You get over the culture shock. You get used to the schedule. And so it was so funny that she still had some of the letters that I wrote her from Japan.
One of the things to mention here, though, is that I did get a chance to go to Japan, and so this
Mhm.
girl was talking Japanese. I was tripping me out. Everything was so organized there and small and compact, and a little bitty tub and a little bitty bed. I was just like tripping. But one of the things to mention here is that her leadership inspired about four or five of our friends, and
Mhm.
or either their friends, kids, or whoever
Mhm.
to go to Japan. So
Yeah.
we had Anthony, Yvonne, there was a couple of folks that
Mhm.
joined and went to Japan and taught English and had that
Actually,
experience.
and also one of our ubiquitarian sisters,
Mhm.
what's her? I can't think of her name now.
Yeah.
I just talked to her.
Mhm.
She went to Japan, so I just saw it as an opportunity for people. Yvonne needed respite because she was tired of doing criminal law. I said, "Come,
Mhm.
this will help."
Mhm.
So I was there. Yvonne came my second year and stayed 2 years. So we hung out every holiday. We were in some Southeast Asian country on a beach.
Mhm.
Um, so it was an opportunity to travel throughout Asia. The only two countries I didn't go to, and I didn't really want to go at the time because it was always cold, was Korea and China.
Mm.
A lot of my friends went to Korea to go
Yeah.
shopping. I'm not interested in buying fake Gucci bags, so I didn't go. But I did go to Indonesia,
Yeah,
Malaysia,
I mean,
Singapore.
that was a great experience. And one of the things
Yeah,
for
that
me,
was.
a take home lesson was when you're constantly being looked over in the US for your qualifications as a black person,
Mhm,
or think international and try to
mhm.
go
And
abroad.
I believe that. Mhm,
Yeah, so that was a good lesson that I learned. And she was making yen instead of US dollars. She was making good money there. She would
mhm.
send me money home and do this. So it was I'm glad I got a chance to go and experience that crazy trip that we took.
Yeah, it was me, you, and Terry. Oh,
No,
no,
it was
Terry came
Sean.
separately.
Sean.
Terry came too.
Yeah, so that was a crazy trip, but
Mhm.
it was good
That was me, you, and
experiences. That was
Sean. We
when
went.
That was at the time when Nelson Mandela. No, but that was at the time when I went to visit. That was at the time that Nelson Mandela got his freedom. He was released from Robben Island. I remember that because I was in
Mhm.
the airport headed back when that happened. So, yeah, great memories. So, what
And
you missed? Go ahead.
no, Yvonne and I were in one of the quote unquote Western grocery stores
Mhm.
when the verdict for what's the football player?
OJ Simpson.
OJ Simpson. When his verdict was announced, we were in the store watching it on TV. It was international news.
Wow.
So it was CNN. and we stopped. We were trying to get Cheetos and whatever else we wanted before we go back home. It was a Sunday, which was no, it was a weekend in our place, so it was Friday. It must have been a Friday.
That was something
back in
I
the
missed. I'm trying to think. But so before you went to Japan, you did something with Vanuatu, and then you went to Jamaica. Where was Jamaica and Vanuatu? Because you guys.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. So that was part of my graduate
Oh, that amazing.
studies. Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
that I wasn't on a 2-year graduate plan. I was on a 3-year graduate plan because I was actually working at the university. It took a little longer, but I didn't really care as long as I didn't have to pay full tuition. I applied for an internship in Jamaica, and it was at that time one of their trade organization, and that was interesting too because they wanted a picture again, and I was like, why do you got to have a picture? So it was funny because I applied, and when I showed up, they were all floored that I was Black. I mean, they couldn't believe it. And they were surprised and happy, but they just knew that I wouldn't have been a Black person. So I actually stayed with a family that had like a block of rooms on the like connected to their house, and I was part of their family for it was 3 months from March to June. I think June or July. I stayed a little longer, and again, Claire Babineau came to Jamaica and stayed with me for a week. I think week or 4 days, and we hung out. But that was a good experience. I learned a lot about that society and how much like slavery still impacts the society. I mean, you could see things. The whole colonial legacy is still there in Jamaica, but it's a beautiful. The people are really beautiful and conservative and warm and welcoming. And I got to see from the beach to the hills. So that was a real interesting time there. I made good friends. People were really welcoming to me, and they all wanted to know about the States, but all they knew was New York and Miami. So, I'm not from either. So I brought a different perspective about things. But that was a really interesting time. And when I got back, I through Hailey, I think Hailey and Janae, is that her name? I can't think of her name. She had a contact of a filmmaker that was really an ambassador at the UN, and he was looking for an intern. And I was like, oh my God. So I talked to Ambassador Van Leerup, and I thought he was white. So when I went to meet him, I went up for an interview, and that was really interesting. I was just blown away by the embassy. It was beautiful. It was in Harlem, so
Have you
they
ever heard of
really
Vanuatu?
couldn't
Have
pay.
you ever heard? Have you ever heard of
I've
Vanuatu?
never heard of Vanuatu.
Me neither. Yeah, me neither.
No, I didn't know anything about the South Pacific. So of course, I had to research it. But when I went, the environment was so welcoming, and he was welcoming, and his staff and everybody. So it was a good experience. But that experience taught me that I didn't want to be a diplomat because I mean, basically learning what to say and when to say things, that's an important skill, and not showing what you're feeling on your face. I didn't have that skill at that time. So I learned a lot, being in that environment, and, made friends with the driver. I think his name was Lucas. He and I used to chat all the time. He was African. I think he was from Cameroon. His staff was Filipino. Mr. Malapa was from Vanuatu. So we had a totally international, team, and it was a lot of fun, interesting. We had another attorney, Ruth. I can't remember Ruth's name. She was a young attorney very progressive. And we were looking out for the interests of the people of the island of Vanuatu. And they were Black people. And I never knew Black people lived in the South Pacific. So
Mhm.
plentiful, but they're
Yeah.
there. That was another diaspora moment. One diaspora, one diaspora. And
Yeah.
Mr. Malapa came for the General Assembly, and he's the actual minister, one of the ministers. So he and I became friends, and it was so cute. He'd ask me, questions about certain things, and we'd walk from the UN sometimes to the I forgot the name of that drugstore in Harlem. But I used to take the train. I was living with Yvonne in Brooklyn, so I'd take the train from Brooklyn to Harlem to go to work every day. And then on the weekends, I would take the train from the city back to DC, and not every weekend, but mostly every weekend. And then take that 5 o'clock train from DC Union Station to New York. Get to New York at 9. Take the train to Harlem. I'd be there by 10 o'clock.
It's
So.
amazing. I was just saying, you said Yvonne. It's amazing the way the paths keep crossing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the friends you made at Howard
Were
are
my
like
friends.
on your path in
Mm-hmm.
Japan, in New York, and yeah, it's just in
And the friends I made in Japan are still
yeah,
on my path.
JR.
Mm-hmm. I talk to JR every
The
weekend.
group that was formed for the program was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing,
So we're
amazing
still
journey.
all close.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
interesting.
amazing.
I'm ready. I feel that now all my nieces and nephews are grown. I can go overseas again. You
Mhm.
know, at some
Mhm.
point I probably will.
Mhm.
You know.
You should. I have some place to visit again. So let's talk about where you are now. Um, because now we are you used to work at a hospital. I know you moved to Atlanta after Japan. Again, it was not finding not finding the job you needed, not finding, and
Not
just
finding a job in
finding your
diplomacy.
place
Mm-hmm.
here, pretty much. So somehow from DC you moved to Atlanta, and you've been living in Atlanta for what? How many years you been in Atlanta?
I came here in '95,
Yeah.
so add that up. I don't know. I only planned to be here until the kids were like maybe 5. I was like, oh, I wanted to be around them to let them know
The
who I was.
kids, the nephews.
I'm
She's
gonna
saying the
be
kids, but they are all her kids. Everybody's mama.
nieces and nephews. I mean, I wanted to be here so they know who I am. I didn't want to be that auntie that they only saw on Christmas or whatever, because you don't really know your relatives. Just from my growing up, the family members that we knew, like Gloria lived around the corner from us, we knew her. But my other aunts and uncles we'd see frequently, but we didn't really grow up around them. Thank you, Mama. Just wanted to be here for, like I said, 5 years, but I've been here since '95. And I used to go back to DC like almost every month. I was back in DC when you were still in DC, because I really miss DC. I really miss that.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
weather grew on me, and
You were
then,
working at a
just.
hospital before. I mean, you kind of fell into real estate 'cause you were working at a hospital in marketing. You were doing your marketing thing, getting all your perks and doing everything. And what happened from
Yeah,
there once
I
you moved to
was
Atlanta?
doing. Yeah, and I really loved that job because I would work with industry people. I would work with creative people. We had a graphic designers, and I would work with producing their television spots. And I loved it. It was fun. It wasn't the same. I can't have monotony. And met a lot of people in the advertising creative industry in Atlanta. But then that what hit? Some crisis hit, and the hospital, basically, it was an independent Catholic hospital. That was really my first corporate job. And they ended up selling the hospital and eliminating the marketing department. But I had always been interested in real estate, even in DC. We just didn't have any money. But around us on our block, there was all kind of opportunities for real estate investment. So, and I had thought about getting my license in DC before I left, but I just didn't. But when I got to Atlanta, I started attending the Georgia Real Estate Investors Association. meetings. I became a member, um, and that really prepared me for, a career in real estate. But being an investor is different from being a licensed real estate agent. But they can work hand in hand, and that's what happened. And I ended up, while I was still working, before St. Joseph's eliminated me, I was getting my real estate license, got it, and was able to work for about a year, part time, because you could do real estate part time. And then when I lost my job at St. Joseph's, I was like, well, why don't I just do this? Even though houses, this was right before the crash. I didn't know that houses were going to drop to $25,000 each. So I just started, trying to develop my real estate business with Metro Brokers, which I really liked, the company. They were really marketing savvy and brand conscious, and I like brand. And that's where I am. I stayed 10 years with Metro Brokers, went from selling, 17,000, $25,000 homes to now being with Metro Brokers, being a part of their relocation team, where you're helping people that are moving into the city, helping military families. That was a lot of fun, but it was really, really demanding. So I just felt I need a break. I need to try to do this on my own. And that's what I did. So in 2018, I had a bunch of good closings. And I decided that I was trying to decide whether I should go to another brokerage or actually go out on my own. And the decision really fell with one of my coworkers asking me, could she move with me? Because I had gotten my broker's license, and if she could move with me into my new venture. So I said, okay. And that didn't work out. But I still have my company, which was aptly named when you and I were trying to do the personal care home. Remember that? Our first investment. And so I saved the name, looked up all the documents that we had prepared, created my little marketing plan, business plan, and started the company. Took the money from my closings that fall and got everything in line. It was stressful, but I could do it. And then I was debating on what to name the company. I had 2 or 3 names picked out. Abode was one of them, but I didn't know how to brand it. And we're licensed for the state of Georgia. So really, this logo came to me in a thought, in a dream, not a dream, but just a thought. It just came into my head, and I drew it out, and I asked my niece, Inyegumena Nosegbi, to help me brand it. And she did it in like 30 minutes, and that's it. We've been moving ever since. Abode Realty, which is, in my mind, it's more of it's a brand. I don't want to be the brand. I want the brand to be the brand. And that's one of the things if people know me, I don't really like taking photographs and stuff. So I never did that with Metro Brokers. I never had my picture on anything. I just had my name and their logo, because I think that if you're good at something, your name will carry, whether people know what you look like or not. So Abode is really, I want to develop it as a lifestyle brand. I want to incorporate art and everything home into this brand to be able to learn about, provide information for homeowners and consumers, and then also sell beautiful items for your home. So that's the direction that I'm going, as well as working with investors, which I have the same investors I started out with, are the same investors I currently have, that have been supportive of me and trust me, and they always come back. I don't have to. I'm bad at it, but that CRM, keeping in touch with people with email and all that. No, they call me. They have my cell number. So they call me, and I'm working with one of my investors that I've sold her about 3 houses. So she's buying another townhome for her retirement. She's retired and she just wants income. So that's what we're working on.
So one of the things I'm very happy to see that you are very passionate about home ownership, especially as it relates to people of lower economic status, who don't have the wherewithal to advance the next generation by going into home ownership. I mean, we were always taught about the importance of owning land growing up, with my grandmother. And I know, depending on your social economic status, generation after generation, people tend to live in apartments or low income housing. What is so important about moving beyond that and moving out of the box traditionally done in the realm of your family, and owning a home, actually moving toward home ownership? Why is that important? Why should people consider that to move themselves, to progress their family for the next generation?
Well, for us, I guess we never thought about it, but we're like third generation homeowner. And that is really significant. When your grandparents, that's like Yvonne being third generation college educated. Her grandmother was college educated. Her mother was college educated. And for her to progress to also be college educated, but also an attorney and a federal attorney. So, like you said, you keep progressing. And we've always lived in a house, whether I don't remember us renting, I was too small, but in my memory, we've always owned a home, and Daddy's always owned property. So that was just a natural progression to do that and to encourage people that they can do that. And after I bought my home, you have that experience, and that was before I was a real estate agent. So you have that experience with your agent. I just think it's important, everybody, this is the whole cliche that it's the American dream to own a home, but it's a financial foot forward. It helps you in the long term gain financial independence, freedom, knowing the story of how Mama Frank bought her house, bought her land, and built her house. That was really, to me, a powerful story that I will share with people if I ever speak somewhere about, housing. And I do share my little experiences with some of the people that I deal with, just to encourage them that they can do this. I'm currently working with a land trust, the Atlanta Land Trust. And that's a very motivating position for me, because you're dealing with low and moderate income people who want to buy a home, and an affordable home, which is a relative term now. But, just to encourage them that they can do this, because any small obstacle can deter you. You can get discouraged. But I just think it's important for people to own a home for stability, like I said, for income generating, for tax benefit. I mean, there's a bunch of benefits. You have to work at it in terms of maintaining the home, but it's worth it. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. And I think that, I think that just owning property can change the trajectory of one's life. I mean, real estate, everybody's trying to win the lotto, going out buying lotto tickets, but investing in a property and really taking care of it. I mean, people tend to take care of things that are their own if you're taught that way. Taking care of the yard, taking care of your house, raising your children. So like you said, they have stability. That's very important. So why do you think this has become a path? I mean, you volunteer in a lot of areas. You volunteer with your community, within your community. very outspoken with the things that are happening in Atlanta around land and property and all of that. But why do you think this has become one of your passions? And I want to just say, why do you think owning land and property ownership and all that is a passion of yours?
One of the things that my first lesson when I was working in New York with the Ambassador Van Lira, one thing he told me, he said, Karen, Harlem is a microcosm of what's happening in Vanuatu. He said, there's no difference. They're just different places. So that stuck with me. And I see that what people are going through to get a leg up financially is the same thing my whole family has already gone through. And I know the stories. So I can relate when somebody comes to me. I'm working with a young lady. I work with first time home buyers, but I'm working with a young lady who has been through a lot in the last 5 years. Just instability, financial instability, home insecurity, but she is determined to become a homeowner, and I'm going to help her because she's already got the right attitude. Um, you know, but I don't know why I'm passionate. It's just good to. There's not one thing that made me passionate, I should say, and it's good to see people in their homes. I've seen homes all over the world and what people live in and how they treat their house, and people that are owners and people that are renters. It's similar all over the world. If you're renting, the instability, people usually at the bottom of the financial distribution. So it's just important for people to progress, period. A lot of countries, you live in the same house you were born in. Here we don't do that in the United States so much, but that house is just continuous, a home for family. So it's just, I don't know, it's meaningful. It's something that's very meaningful, your home, and important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it can help you in hard times. If I wouldn't have had a house, I wouldn't have been able to make it through the financial downturn. I rented my basement. I had a basement apartment built in my home so I can rent it out. And I knew when I bought the house, that's what I was looking for because I lived in DC. I know that you can rent out your basement in DC and have that pay for your mortgage. So when I wasn't employed, that helped me. Knowing that Mama Frank used to rent out rooms when it was hard times, she had a house. She rented out rooms so she could make extra money. She cooked in her kitchen. Your house can be a lifeline in different ways to help you financially. And that's what people have to understand. It's not just a pretty show place, but it's nice to be a pretty show place, but it can be there for you when you need assistance. Nobody anticipates losing their job. I didn't anticipate in my whole career. I never lost the job, but that happened, and I was able to maintain.
So, what are some of the things that your clients like about you, Karen Babino, Abode, since you don't
That I will not
like
lie
to
to them.
attach to
I do
you,
not
Abode?
sell a house to make a commission. My motivation is for you to have good investment. And I tell them that up front. I'm not going to try to sell you something that, that I know that even if they're set on something and I know it's not a good thing, I will say, that's not the one, or let's move on. Let's see something else. I've been helping my client that came back to me to buy her investment property. I think her third or fourth investment property. We've looked at some condos. Now, I didn't feel comfortable with them buying, even though they were okay with buying this one particular one. I was like, I don't think you're going to get the return. Even though it's in a good location, the actual management of the condo was not good. So I don't want to stick somebody in something that they're going to regret and they're going to blame me. No. So I tell them the truth, whether they want to hear it or not.
This
So
is true. This is true.
my
Well,
investors too.
yeah, I mean, I think just seeing the way you work, how hard you work, your commitment, your passion, your drive, it's all there. Your honesty. Um, I
Thank you, Ada Babineau. It's
Yeah,
hard
well,
work.
thank you.
It's not easy.
It's all about character. It's all about character. And
Mhm.
there are people that just take positions because it's fast money or it's this and that. And
Right. No,
that's not what drives you. It's the
it's
people.
not fast money.
Right, right. Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
lot. So I just want to just kind of close with how do you want to be remembered? It could be you, it could be a bold, but how do you want people to remember, or what are some things that you want to leave behind in terms of your legacy?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier, I would like to leave some type of funding for real estate education at Howard University, maybe even at Sam Houston, for people to learn about real estate at an early age because it's fun. It's not the same all the time. You can work another job and still, work in real estate, which I really liked. Um, I would like to contribute in some way, I think, taking Chris Cathcart's One Diaspora and making that a foundation and connecting a foundation that will connect the diaspora based on DNA evidence, based on history, learning the history of the diaspora because it's not one thing. We're connected because the ship went on to the United States. You may have been taken from the same village, but you were dropped off in Jamaica or Trinidad, and then the ship continued. You don't know you have ancestors there. So I would like to, in some way, be a part of funding that type of research or that type of foundation
Initiative.
connect people so they know they have a family in the diaspora. They know the village or the area they came from in Africa, which is something we just learned, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, we're Cameroonian, connected to Cameroon.
And we're connected to friends that we have. Tracy, same ethnic group, we're the same ethnic group.
Yeah.
So, people they need, I think those type of things would be important to know especially for kids growing up. And just for future generations, the way the world is turning, who would have even believed that we're at a turning point in terms of race relations? And if somebody tells me uses the word social equity one more time, so those type of things that train is not going to stop. It's going to continue. It's just going to take a different form in the next generation because they have more understanding and openness than maybe we do. And then the next generation will be more open. So just to be able to connect the diaspora after 500-600 years would be very powerful. I would like to have a part in that.
So real estate, connecting diaspora, community activism, community involvement are all
community activism just comes, from
caring about your
people to benefit.
community.
You can't trust government blindly. You can't trust your city government blindly, your state government blindly. No, you got to question and you got to fight for what you want. And there will be consequences. They may be personal consequences. You can't get a job somewhere. You're just gonna have to take it and keep it keep it moving, because when you do the right thing, it always comes back and people remember that you did the right thing, not that you took an easy out for your own personal benefit.
Well, that's what we're finding now. We're seeing so many sellout Republicans, sellout people politically. It is just like mind-boggling. And people don't see them as sellouts. They see it as a party thing. It's like, oh, wow, you all are such sellouts. So anyway, Karen Babino is not that. Her mantra is many things that are progressive and peaceful and inviting. So, yeah, we thank you. Thank you.
Can I say the revolution is not going to be televised? It's up here. This is the revolution right here. Challenging your thinking, being exposed to different thinking. That's
and
the revolution in people.
people thinking, history, all of that. You're right.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Miss Karen Ruth Babineau, aka Rudy. Ha ha ha. Thank you for talking with us. And hey, if you want to be, I guess, expand your voice and get it out there, document it, contact me at DocUup, ambabineaux@gmail.com. DocUup is my website. I'm still trying to get and build that up and really identify it a little bit better. But doing things like this, where you're bringing conversations to the forefront and documenting them for future generations, there's a lot that people did not know about you. That talking about it, I think they've learned a lot more about you. And your path has been amazing. I know you don't even see it as that, but you have done so much more than your average Joe Blow. That from which you've come. So thank you, love you, appreciate you, and
Thank you. Thank you. Love you
I
too.
will. Yeah, I
Ada
will.
pushes me sometimes more than I want to be pushed.
Well, ditto, ditto.
Yes. Go. Oh,
All
God.
right, well, take care, and we'll talk to you probably tomorrow. Or all right, love you much. Bye.
All right. Love you. Bye bye.